The San Francisco 49ers have a ton of free agents in 2023, a lot of tough decisions to be made. We're going to rank those free agents in order. Who are the most important free agents for the 49ers to keep in 2023? Coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks, everybody, once again for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 6 players. If they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. Depending on where you look, the 49ers have between 15, 16, and maybe $5 million of functional salary cap space, Croc, going into 2023. And they have a pretty low number of players under contract right now. This is going to be a tough offseason for the 49ers. They're probably going to create some space with some more restructures and things like we've seen in years past. They don't like doing a ton of that. They don't like having a lot of dead money on their rosters, but there's some big things to do. Nick Bosa's new contract is going to be upcoming this offseason, but it will actually probably lower his number and create a little extra space when that does happen for the 49ers, just because of the nature of the business and, signing bonuses and low base salaries and pushing some of that signing bonus money into the future, into future salary caps. But the cap is going up, but even still, the 49ers have some tough decisions to make. I want to go through all the free agents on the 49ers, the unrestricted free agents, and talk about which one of these guys are the most important to the team and which ones they can't lose. And it starts with a guy we talked a lot, Croc, about this offseason already, is Mike McGlinchey in that right tackle spot. And as a top 10 pick, Mike McGlinchey is going to make a lot of money on the free agent market, whether it's with the 49ers or with somebody else. And when it comes to Mike McGlinchey, do you think that the 49ers would be okay letting him walk and trying to fill that spot in-house with a Brunskill, or Colton McKivitz would probably be the first guy up there at right tackle? They've drafted some guys and they've developed some guys, Spencer Burford potentially kicking outside. Is that something you'd be comfortable with, and maybe throwing in a rookie in the mix to compete as well as a mid-round pick?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to let him walk because of what he will demand on the open market. I think Mike McGlinchey, regardless of what a lot of the 49 fan base thinks about him, because they kind of focus on specific plays, coaches might look at it a little different. And there's been times, and we know Kyle, if you're not playing well, he will challenge his players. I'm pretty sure at times he had to challenge Mike McGlinchey. But overall, if he did get challenged, I think he responded well, especially down the stretch. He played well the second half of the season. Didn't have to hear his name called too many times for anything, bad, or any, like, oh man, he missed this block, it was so terrible. For the most part, I think when the coaches cut on the film, I think there's a lot of things that they like. So he's probably the number one tackle on the free agent market. But I think there's enough money that you spent on your own guys, which that's always tough, because you want to take care of those guys. But if they spent so much money elsewhere, I think you have to try to go a little cheap somewhere. And when you're already paying Trent Williams what you're paying him, I think McGlinchey is the one that kind of feels the brunt of that, and they let him go. But if they were able to make it happen and he doesn't command as much money as I think he will in the open market, then he'll be back. But I just don't see that happening.
He was at his locker after the final game of the season for the 49ers, and he didn't quite say his goodbyes, but he was hopeful he could get something done. But he also said he's not going to do anything crazy as far as money. He basically said, paraphrasing, could be a little hometown discount there, but he's not going to do anything crazy. And look, if he's the best offensive tackle on the market, according to most teams, he's going to see a lot of money. And if he's making, say, $15 million a year, that's $15 million. That would suck up a lot of the 49ers salary cap, and they wouldn't be able to do other deals with a lot of these other names I'm going to list here in a second. Jimmie Ward.
Well, real quick, on McGlinchey, I'm not a fan of the whole hometown discount thing, because the moment a team can't, or they don't see value in you, they just let you go.
Yeah.
So I think from a fan and front office perspective, oh yeah, hometown discount. But for these players and someone that roots for players to get their money, don't take anything less, because the moment they can just throw you away, they definitely will.
Yeah, it might be the only time in your career you get an opportunity of strength to negotiate that one contract for yourself.
Right, go cash in.
Yeah, that one big contract. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think we know how that's going to end, and Kyle Shanahan very sternly said they don't expect him back, but we expected him not to be back last year either. So maybe put a pin in Jimmy Garoppolo. Even more unlikely that he's back this year because he's not under contract this time and is going to be an unrestricted free agent. And Jimmie Ward is another one who spoke about his future and then spoke a little bit more on Instagram Live after that, and it really gave me the vibes that Jimmie Ward is not coming back. Did you get the same vibes from Jimmie Ward, and especially with how much you would have to pay a safety and what they got from Deshaun Gibson, who, by the way, is also a free agent?
Right. I think Gibson might be one of the biggest free agents out there for the 49ers to resign. As far as Jimmie Ward goes, you talked about the Instagram Live and kind of, just a tone in the sense of maybe not coming back. I feel like he's had that tone really since midway through the year. Before he started to embrace playing that nickel position, I remember him saying, like, hey, man, I want to play safety, but wherever they need me to play, I'll play to get through this season. And I'm like, yep, he's out of here. So that'd be a big loss, I think. And obviously, if you can, re-sign Gibson. And I think with Gibson, is it not just coming back? Is it also we'll get to him. But as far as Ward goes, he will be missed, very versatile. He's been with the 49ers his entire career, since 2014? Gosh, it's been a really long time. But he's done so many good things for the 49ers. He seems like a great teammate. He, instills a lot of confidence in his teammates. I saw how he took Hufanga under his wing and was like, yeah, this is going to be the best safety tandem in the league, before people truly believed in what Hufanga could potentially be. And now we know, all-pro. All right, but Ward will be a huge loss.
Going down the list, and this is in order of what their salary was in 2022. Jimmie Ward, number one on the list, made $9.5 million. Jimmy Garoppolo, $7 million on his salary, and some incentives and changed sort of the math a little bit with that one. Samson Ebukam, edge rusher, $6 million last year. Emmanuel Mosley would be next. Then Mike McGlinchey, Azeez al-Shaiir, Robbie Gould, Daniel Brunskill, defensive tackle Hassan Ridgeway, who was on a one-year deal with the 49ers. Kerry Hyder, also on a one-year deal with the 49ers, versatile defensive lineman. Veteran journeyman tight end Tyler Kroft now will be etched in 49ers fans' memory as the guy who was one-on-one with Hassan Reddick when Brock Purdy got injured in the NFC Championship game. Maurice Hurst, Tashawn Gibson, Josh Johnson, Jordan Willis, long snapper Tabor Pepper, Ross Dwelly, starting center Jake Brendel was on basically a veteran minimum contract, and then Jason Verrett, who never made it back for the 49ers last year. That is the list. Charles Omenihu as well is a big one here. He was making next to nothing at the end of his rookie contract, only $700,000 as a fifth-round draft pick to finish off his rookie contract, and now has an opportunity to make a few dollars. I mean, there's a lot of really important names, rotational pieces, talking about your kicker and your long snapper as well. I mean, if you signed, say, one Mike McGlinchey for $15 million per year, there might not be many more names from that list you'd be able to bring back.
I think that's going to be the challenging thing for the 49ers, to try to figure out how do we maneuver this thing, work the cap. But if there is a time where you can kind of force some things with some of these players that you might lose, is why you have not one, but two quarterbacks on rookie contracts. So this is the time to try to figure out how you can maneuver some things and make it work.
All right, let's get more into some of those other names we haven't talked about yet, and which ones we think we would sign first if we were putting our John Lynch caps on in charge of the 49ers free agency in the offseason next. Today's episode brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. As a small business owner or hiring manager, success in 2023 all depends on the team members around you and the team that you surround yourself with. It's really no different than putting together a football team organizationally. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. They go beyond the resume data with using insights from your job post, the company, and their $875 million or 875 million member profiles out there to put your post in front of the most qualified candidates. Identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect with them faster and for free. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easier to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, all on one platform that those job seekers are already on. Mention those 800 plus million member profiles. So why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. Of course, tons of other content here on the Locked On Podcast Network, including more of me, if that's what you're into. The Peacock and Williamson NFL show, talking daily about the entire league, getting deep into offseason stuff, draft conversations, Super Bowl trades. I mean, it's a whole lot of fun. I love the offseason, and Matt and I get deep into it. He used to work in an NFL front office himself, and so you can find that daily. Locked On NFL, Locked On NFL Draft, and of course, your team is covered right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Of all the names we mentioned there, Croc, you are calling one agent first. Which agent would that be?
I think I gotta call Gibson's agent first, because kind of Ward is gonna demand some money on the open market. Now, I guess the question is, are we sure that Ward is going to demand more than Gibson? When Gibson had a higher interception total, Gibson was the one that kind of pushed Ward out of that position. But I think because of Ward's versatility, and he's played at a really solid level for some years now, whereas Gibson was a guy who's a free agent off the street, I'd say that you're more likely to be able to get Gibson at a lower price. So if I'm the 49ers, because I'm losing Ward, I definitely have to get Gibson. Like, you can't lose Ward and Gibson.
Right. No, that makes sense. And it feels like Gibson would make less just because of what their statuses were coming into the year, and that Jimmie Ward's a younger player and would get a longer term deal. And we don't even know if Tayshaun Gibson, I think he was considering some retirement already. And we don't know if he's actually going to come back. I would assume, getting a nice little raise there for Tayshaun Gibson on a short term deal would make sense for both Gibson and the 49ers. Make sure they have that veteran safety. And no doubt, I'm sure they're going to be drafting a safety with one of their 10 picks starting in late round 3 through round 7. And maybe find another gym like they did with Hufanga. But what's actually shocking to me, Croc, is Gibson's only 1 year older than Jimmie Ward. Jimmie Ward, 31 and a half. Tayshaun Gibson's 32 and a half.
Yeah. Well, again, we talk about it, and it seems like Jimmie Ward was just drafted last year, but he's been in the league for a long time. And a lot of times guys like him that come from colleges like, I think it was Northern Illinois, they typically play like all 4 years. So or they play 3 or 4 years, but more likely they're at a smaller school like that. And I want to say that's FCS, maybe? Because Eastern Illinois is definitely...
Northern Illinois would be... No. That's a good question.
We'll have to look that up. But if it is, typically those guys stay for 4 years.
Yeah, I can't think of what conference.
Typically. I know there's Trey
Lance out there. 4 or 5 years. You get a redshirt year, and then and Jimmie Ward's sort of a skinny guy, so... I can't remember if he was 4 or 5 years, but he's definitely a senior when he came out, right?
I feel like who got drafted first, Ward or Tart?
Ward.
Okay, so maybe he did. I don't know. Hold on, we got to look that up because I know they went to the same high school, which is crazy in itself. But let's see, because now it's going to bother me.
One of them must have redshirted and the other one didn't.
Right, or just stayed long.
So remember, Tart was at the Senior Bowl.
All right, here we go. Northern Illinois, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. So 4 years.
4 years. So Tart was the next year because he took a redshirt year.
Right. So those guys, I mean, that alone takes away another year from you to be a little bit younger.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, but yeah, Gibson. Feels like he's been a long time because I remember him. Gosh, he was on the secondary. Was it the Jaguars? There was one secondary Gibson was on where it was like, dang, this guy's good.
Bears, maybe?
I think it was before the Bears. What was the
It might have been
first?
Jaguars then. Jaguars then Bears for Gibson. Azeez al-Shaiir, you can't pay another linebacker, right?
I think you kind of got to let him walk. And they've done a really good job. Oh, and by the way, Gibson started out with the Browns and then went to Jaguars. And I think when he went from the Browns to the Jaguars, that was the one where it was like, dang, Gibson was good on the Browns. I think that's what the conversation was. Now, that was, gosh, I mean, he was there 16, 17, 18. Gosh, he's played a lot of years in the NFL. Out of Wyoming. Talk about small school.
Here's the question I have. So I think Azeez al-Shaiir, I mean, he's a great player. It would be awesome to have him back, but I think they chose Greenlaw. You can't pay a third linebacker, especially when we're talking about with a salary cap crunch here that the 49ers are facing a little bit in the 2023 offseason with so many free agents. And he deserves to get a starter salary somewhere else. You know, it's easy to project him to go to Houston with DeMeco Ryans to be a starting linebacker there. But here's the thing with the 49ers. So they've done such a good job of finding linebackers and developing linebackers, but DeMeco Ryans been there the whole time. You know, has he been the linebacker guru? You know, how much do Greenlaw and al-Shaiir and even Fred Warner? Oh, and Fred Warner talked about how sad he is and how rough it's going to be to lose DeMeco Ryans and how important he's been to his career. So is it going to be that easy for the 49ers to pluck another linebacker in the draft? They have a ton of picks. I'm sure linebacker will be one of those picks. You got McCrary Ball, that was on the practice squad last year. I think it's going to get an opportunity to maybe get some run with the 49ers next year. Demetrius Flanagan Foles, and they do have some players, Oren Burks. They have some bodies and some players there, so it makes it easier to let Azeez al-Shaiir walk. But I wonder if that might start to dry up a little bit if there's no DeMeco Ryans around, where they're just drafting these guys and even undrafted free agents like McCrary Ball. Hopefully he's the next, and Azeez al-Shaiir before him turn out to be ballers.
There's no way to know exactly the impact that one coach has more than the other. But Johnny Holland has been with the 49ers since 2017. He's also been the linebacker coach. So as long as DeMeco Ryans was a linebacker coach for the 49ers, Johnny Holland was as well. So, I don't know if that's something that, how do you value that more than the experience they had with DeMeco Ryans?
Right.
Was Holland just kind of there and DeMeco was the guy? Things I've heard from coaches I know, they speak very highly of Johnny Holland. So I like to think that he had some role in the development and the play of these linebackers. Again, not to say it's any more or less than DeMeco, but the fact that Holland is still there, as far as right now, I think that bodes well for the linebackers that they've been developing.
Absolutely. And the continuity there. And then now you have veteran linebackers like Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw that can pass that knowledge that they learned from both of those guys down to younger players as well.
Right.
Robbie Gould. I mean, how awesome has Robbie Gould been for the 49ers? Dude's 40 years old. And he's not cheap as far as kickers go. He's going to make $3 or $4 million, right? But you can't let him walk. I mean, you could let him walk, and they got a lot of draft picks. They could draft the guy just like they did when they let Bradley Pinion walk and they drafted Mitch Wishnowsky. So maybe that's the way you keep things cheaper. You could save $3 million there by letting Robbie Gould walk. But the dude's been so money, I have a hard time believing the 49ers are going to do that.
They've come a long way with him because remember, it felt like yesterday he did not want to be a 49er.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, let me go. Kyle was like, no. And they kind of held him hostage. And now it seems like he would love to be a 49er. So he's been one of the highest paid kickers in the league. He's done an amazing job for the 49ers. How much leg does he have left? I don't know. But as far as like just being able to count on any player on the 49ers, is there any more reliable player than Robbie Gould and what he's done, no matter the elements?
No, not at all. And look, this is a little selfish, Croc, but if they let Robbie Gould walk, I don't want to have to spend time scouting kickers for the NFL draft because they will draft one.
There's a lot of teams around the league who, the Cowboys, before they played the 49ers, their kicker missed 4 extra points and then another extra point the game before that. The one guy, and if anything happens bad, like a missed extra point or field goal, it is so shocking, right? Like I don't even have to watch the extra points or the field goals. Robbie Gould gets out there, it's going in. I'm shocked when he misses. So I think that says a lot about how reliable he is and how dependable he's been for the 49ers. Again, I in my head, I see him going out there for a game-winning field goal kick against Green Bay Packers in the divisional round. And in my head, it's well, we got Robbie Gould. Like, we're good. So I don't want to have to build up that kind of trust in another kicker.
I think maybe, Croc, the first agent I call is the agent of cornerback Emmanuel Moseley, and hope that I can get a 1 year, get healthy, prove it deal so he can go back. And that would be my pitch, is to get that 1 year deal, to come back 1 year, hit free agency healthy next offseason, and then get your payday. That would be my pitch. And hopefully the 49ers are able to get something done there, which would be a lot less for Emmanuel Moseley than what he would have made if he didn't tear his ACL.
Yeah. Bring back Moseley, man. I felt so bad when he tore his ACL.
Yeah.
For an undrafted guy, and it's clear he's about to get paid, it's just, you got the ACL. You don't know how it's going to work out. I'm all for these guys getting paid, especially the underdogs. And he definitely was that. Undrafted free agent, started on the practice squad, came in, broke his arm or elbow, whatever it was, had to come in, had to really take his spot from Killer Witherspoon, and he's been really good for the 49ers. It's unfortunate he tore his ACL at a bad time.
Let's say Emmanuel Moseley's still getting those offers and it's too much, and the 49ers have to let him walk this offseason. How do you feel about that cornerback spot all of a sudden? Are you just calling other people, trying to bring in another potentially decent money, starting caliber cornerback? Are you cool with just, no, we're good, Demo, Ambry Thomas, go into the draft and try to develop another guy behind those guys too?
I think at the very least you're happy that Demo and Ambry Thomas at different times have shown that they can be a starter for you if need be. So are you looking to upgrade? Maybe. But I think what they showed, especially with how Diamador Lenore ended the season, which is kind of weird because he ended the regular season, not great. Then he ended the postseason. Man, he was really good. So shout out to Diamador Lenore. I think he's earned a lot of equity in this team, but I could see them potentially trying to see, can we get better? And if not, then you probably are comfortable with him playing.
I feel really similarly about corner and right tackle, where it's like, okay, if you let your guy walk, maybe it's a year to go cheaper there and hope internal options, drafting more guys and developing more competition there, can still net you a good unit. And that's probably the way I'd go with both of those. Save the money for some of these other positions we're going to talk about, including a number of names on the defensive line and one very important starting offensive lineman as well next. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And my goodness, how many Super Bowl props I'm starting to see at FanDuel. Tons of great ones. And this year, it's the only app you need for your Super Bowl party. Super excited about our new betting partner because it is America's #1 sports book. Download FanDuel now so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with the no sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win too. That's what's so sweet about the no sweat first bet. FanDuel lets you bet everything: money line, point spreads, of course, who will score the first touchdown. There's just a category of Patrick Mahomes props. The result of Patrick Mahomes' first pass. What will Patrick Mahomes throw first? A touchdown, an interception? What will his first pass, what will the results be? Will it be a complete pass or an incomplete pass? Who will he throw his pass to? Rushing yards for Patrick Mahomes, passing attempts, longest pass, passing touchdowns, exact passing touchdowns. I mean, it's absurd, all the props you can find for the Super Bowl and more for the NFL draft as well at FanDuel. And of course, that no sweat first bet for Super Bowl 57. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Croc, rank these defensive linemen that you would try to re-sign first in the offseason. Charles Omenihu, Jordan Willis, Maurice Hurst, Kerry Hyder, Hassan Ridgeway.
Omenihu at the top of that. And then Jordan Willis because of the special teams aspect to it. Then we go Kerry Hyder and then Ridgeway.
I think of the outside free agents, a nose tackle-y type guy would be the way to go. And I like some of the things I saw from Hassan Ridgeway, and he's built like a big nose tackle. I don't know if that's his best skill set. I think he was a nice, and he's a local guy too, from what I understand. And so, bring him back, sure, but I still think that they could go another way at tackle. So I'd be more willing to spend on the defensive end front. And look, Charles Minnie, who had some nice reps at tackle as well. So really flexible, can move him around. I think there's still some off-field work that needs to be done on the incident with Charles Omenihu late in the year there that obviously is a big factor in all of this. I don't know how much Charles Omenihu is going to make. He put out some good tape. Like, is he going to be like Arden Key last year, where it's like, oh man, he's making too much money, we have to let him walk? That's what worries me a little bit. But clearly Charles Omenihu would be the guy to target, and maybe even number one guy to target on this entire list because of his impact versus what he's probably going to make, unless I'm maybe underestimating how much Charles Omenihu can make on the open market as a free agent, because he was just so good and so versatile for the 49ers over the last couple of years. Just a really nice move for the 49ers to get him, by the way, on that in the trade market for next to nothing.
There are a couple kind of underrated names on this list, and I have to kind of start with one that nobody's probably thinking of, but Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles, he's been another one of those linebackers that has really developed under the tutelage of these 49ers linebackers coaches, and he's only had to really play in a pinch. He has been pivotal on special teams playing that, but I don't think I've ever heard anyone, no fan, no anyone, I've never seen his name. You could probably search him on Twitter and nothing might come up, but he's a guy that had to work his way up and really develop. I mean, and be able to be on the field and active at the same time with the Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Azeez al-Shaiir, having like those type of guys. And then, oh man, I'm the next man up if any of those guys goes down. So he's a guy that you might be able to bring back on a low who knows the defense that they played or how to work with those guys, and then, can maybe help that learning curve with the new defensive coordinator that comes in.
Yeah, and I didn't mention the restricted free agents, and Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles is still a restricted free agent, so he doesn't really get to walk, but you do have to give him a raise for sure. And maybe he's the guy where they just say, oh, look, let's sign him to a salary that keeps him around, not just on that restricted free agent tender, but actually a real contract to keep him around beyond next year, so he doesn't hit free agency next year, and he's that number 3 linebacker for you. And yeah, it's been fun to watch the development of Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles. Kevin Givens and Colton McKivitz also restricted free agents. And then I've heard some people get a little worried about Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings going nowhere. He's exclusive rights free agent, which means they just tender an offer, and that's that. So,
we did not mention a couple of offensive linemen, Daniel Brunskill, and maybe it's just time for him to walk, but he's been very versatile, being able to play multiple positions. Maybe not the guy that you want to go into the season as the starter, but definitely a legit 6th offensive lineman. And then Tabor Pepper, that's your long snapper. And, I talked about how reliable our kicker, Robbie Gould, has been. But Tabor Pepper has been just as reliable. And again, off the top of my head, can't think of any bad snaps. That's always good. Whether it's the kicker or the punter. And we had a really, we had the Wish watch. Wishnowski was really good, especially down the stretch. Yeah, I think Tabor Pepper had a lot to do with that.
I think the 49ers, if they had it perfect, would not mess at all with their specialists there. And Tabor Pepper's not going to break the bank. He's a first of all, he's a friend of the show, so got to bring Tabor Pepper back. Absolutely, that's a no-brainer, I think, for the 49ers. Jake Brendel as well, we haven't talked a lot about. So those are the 2 most interesting on the offensive line. If you're letting Mike McGlinchey walk, Daniel Brunskill and Jake Brendel, and you could probably bring them back at a combination at less than what, probably a lot less actually than what Mike McGlinchey is going to get in free agency. That's your starting center, and Jake Brendel exceeded my expectations by a lot at starting center. And I don't think you're inking him to a big long-term deal, but if you can figure out something short-term there to bring him back, you don't have anybody ready to jump in and be your starting center. And Daniel Brunskill might be part of the team that helps replace Mike McGlinchey if he walks as either a tackle, which we've seen him play well, or maybe he plays right guard and competes there. And maybe Spencer Burford gets a look at right tackle. And so Brunskill's been so versatile. And since he wasn't a starter all year, maybe he wants to walk because he wants to be a starter, and the Niners didn't let him be that last year. And except for, he was basically a rotational guy with Burford at right guard. But those are 2 interesting ones. Are Brunskill and Brendel going to make starters money on the open market, or can they come back to the 49ers and play important roles but be paid sub what some guys in the league are paid to start in the NFL along the offensive line? Those will be big questions because I really have no idea what the numbers for someone like Brunskill and Brendel could be, because if it's a low number, then you absolutely bring those guys back. But if they're going to make starters free agent money, that's going to be hard for the 49ers to pay.
Right now, I brought up Tabor Pepper. $1 million to be a long snapper, man. I played the wrong position.
Dude, specialize, man. Specialize. That's what I'm teaching my kid, little Leo. I'm like, look, whatever you decide you want to do, specialize the heck out of it and be the best at this one niche thing. I mean, that's the way it's going in society too, not just in the NFL world as well. All right. A lot of decisions for the 49ers to make this offseason. Thanks everybody for making Locked On 49ers your first listener. We're going to get deeper into all these position groups, looking at outside free agents and tons of angles for how the 49ers will build their 2023 roster. And of course, Croc and I back with you tomorrow. We're going to do a little Thursday night live episode of Locked On 49ers, so make sure you jump on with us with that, which will be in your Friday morning audio feeds as well. Talk to you then right here, Locked On 49ers.